Hello and welcome to the Curator's Salon podcast. I'm your host, Gita Joshi. Today, I have a friend from the internet as my guest, Marina Granger from the Artist Advisory. Welcome, Marina.
Yay! Thank you so much for having me, Gita. It is such a pleasure to come on your podcast and to see you
And
and
to
to hang
actually see you.
out.
Yeah. Our listeners
Yeah,
can't see us, but it's nice to see you.
yeah.
Let's get into it. Just in case somebody is listening and they are not familiar with your work, can you give us a bit of a background into how you came into art and, yeah, the sort of work you do?
Yeah, so I am going to start this story off way back when I was a kid. I was like 7 or 8 years old, and I walked into the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City. And I thought to myself, this is so wild. Like, who decides that this particular artwork goes here? And where are all the people that work here? You know? I was just so curious about this sort of place because it was unlike anything I'd ever seen before. And my biggest question was, how does the artwork get on the walls of a museum? And so now, years after I have worked in the New York City art world and have worked with artists, I have an inkling of an idea of how that happens. So, fast forward to my professional life, I worked in a museum and met several galleries in New York City for about 15 years uh, until I realized that I really wanted to try something different. And that something different was offering guidance, essentially in a very clinical sense about branding and marketing to visual artists, but really how to navigate the art world. I was a gallery director in New York City for many, many years, and I saw so many artists get the runaround. And I thought, you know what? No more. I am done with this. So many artists that I knew were asking me how to get their work into galleries, if it was the right gallery for them, and so on and so forth. And I kind of knew how to answer that question. And now I really know how to answer that question. So that is what I do with the Artist Advisory, which is my company that I've had now since 2018. I've got a podcast. I've got a online signature group program that helps artists navigate the art world and themselves into galleries called the Artist Academy. And I also have to say, if you're listening and you're intrigued, I invite you to a free 3-day training on how to get into galleries that don't accept submissions. That's coming up very, very soon on July 10th, 11th, and 12th. So, anyway, that's what I do. One more tiny thing is that I always, always, always underline the importance of mindset, alignment, and spirituality. So I'm also a Reiki master and practice classical Chinese feng shui. And I encourage a lot of the teachings that I've learned from these modalities into the work that I do with the artists that I work with.
What a fabulous rundown. I'm going to add the link to your free training in the show notes. So if you're listening, you will find the details there. Working with galleries and artists, I think a lot of artists think this is a bit of the holy grail. Like I get artists who have never sold their work asking, yeah, I've got a body of work. I want to sell through galleries or I want a gallery to sell it for me. And what's interesting about your story is that I actually came into like this sort of work supporting artists to improve their own, the things they don't think they need, right? The branding, the website, the social media, the messaging, because I had a lot of bad submissions. So it wasn't so much giving them the runaround, but it was like, this is so easy to like say no to. And, here's some things that you can uh, do better to, make it a better proposition for that gallery. So I think, do you find that artists come to you prematurely about working with galleries, and what are the pros and cons of, selling through galleries and selling directly?
What a great question. I just want to underline this whole thing by saying that what Gita and I do is something that they do not teach you in art school, as far as I know. And so don't blame yourself if you feel very confused or maybe pretty clear on what to do, but just unsure or something like that, because you're not there's no one has taught you this, right? So, anyway, do artists come to me prematurely in hopes of working with a gallery? That is a great question. So, in my experience, you really don't need that much artwork to work with a gallery. The number one thing that misconception that I see is that artists believe that they need to create an entire exhibition before they can approach a gallery, which is absolutely not true. What you need before you approach a gallery is a real devotion to being an artist, but also a very clear message and 3 to 5 artworks that align with that clear message consistently. Because here's how it's usually going to work. And what you're going to do is you might be able to find a gallery, or the gallery will find you. They will be interested in your work. They'll see that you have a very clear and consistent message, that you have been working on the work that you have very diligently, whether it takes you 3 to 4 months or more to complete one work of art, or whether it takes you a lot less, right? As long as it's very consistent, they're going to be able to understand your story, and they're going to know that they can trust you to create work of a similar caliber and message going forward. So, what they're going to do is try you out. A very good gallery is going to try you out. They're going to put your work in a group exhibition or consign 1 or 2 works to see if their collectors truly resonate with it and if it sells. And once it does, that's when they will start to talk to you about a solo exhibition. And that's when they'll say, hey, maybe in 2 years, will you be ready? And then you start to put together a body of work that will be ready for that solo exhibition. So there's that. But there's always, always exceptions in the art world. The art world is like super unruly. And I've actually had an experience where uh, I had an artist I was working with meet a gallerist who was really interested in her work, but the gallerist had somebody back out of an exhibition. They met in like November, and the gallerist had an empty spot on her calendar in like April. And she loved the artist so much and the work, and offered her a solo show right away. But that was mostly because the artist already had a proven sales record. So the gallerist knew that it was very possible to sell her work. And she also knew that the work aligned with the formal and informal characteristics of the artwork that her collectors generally liked. So anything can happen, but there are some rules to it, right? So I guess that is the answer to your question, hopefully.
Love it. Thank you for all the detail there. There's always going to be outliers, and there's always going to be people that walk into a gallery and yes, they got selected, and we hear of people being picked up by sort of big name galleries from their graduate show and things like this, but they make headlines because they're so unusual, right? That is like not the usual way that it happens, which is why it becomes the news sometimes, right? Suddenly it's newsworthy. If it was happening all the time, it wouldn't. So thank you, Marina, for sharing that. Is this some of what people can expect on your 3-day training, by the way?
Oh, absolutely. So in my 3-day training, I just want to tell you what the strategy is that I'm going to teach you, because I think it's going to really help you understand where I'm coming from and how galleries can like really help artists. And, I know that we're on a podcast where we understand that, galleries are not your savior, and they're not. They're really not. Um, no one's gonna just, I mean, maybe there are, maybe it's out there. Maybe you will have somebody come and knock on your studio window and say, hey, I'm ready to give you a show in my blue chip gallery, and I've never met you before. It could happen, right? But anyway, so in a nutshell, in my 3-day training, I teach you how to get into those galleries that don't accept submissions. So the first day, I'm going to tell you where or exactly what the galleries are looking for and where they're looking, because every single gallerist will say like, oh yeah, we're not accepting submissions, but they're always looking. They're always looking. That's literally their job, is to do studio visits all the time and then sell artwork and put on exhibitions. It's a lot. They kind of wear a lot of hats, no matter how big the gallery is, but they're always looking. So I'll tell you what they're looking for. And then in the second day, I will tell you exactly how to show it to them online, meaning on your website and on your social media and elsewhere offline. So, how do you build a CV, a resume that will bring the butterflies that are the galleries to your garden? And in the third day, I will teach you how you can essentially get out of your own way. Not that you're fully in your own way. Like I don't want to impose that on you, because I know that ultimately everybody's higher self is really there to support them. But how can you identify what might be stopping you? Maybe there's a belief that you have. Everything that we're taught that we cannot do, it's because somebody else told us we couldn't do it. We're not born thinking we can't do something. We just assume we can't. And then it doesn't happen, right? So in a sense, that's what I'm going to teach you. Does that
Love
answer your
it.
question? I
It
don't.
really does. I love that. Yeah, I think there's so many things that artists can do to really help themselves with the presentation of their work, the way they meet people. And what you said about they are looking, right? Even when they say we don't accept submissions, they still kind of, well, yeah, they don't want to miss out on what could be the next big thing. They don't want to miss out on, I don't know, a trend or, all sorts of things. So I think I've, definitely kind of um had conversations with gallerists that say that we don't, but then yeah, we kind of
Well,
quietly
I
do,
mean,
and then
Gita, they have to. I mean, you were a gallerist, right? Like you have to know what's going on in the art world. So in order to know what's going on, you always have to be looking.
and
And
we're,
that's
we're
something they
always,
don't tell you.
and the idea that it's only sort of online, but we are looking when we go to places, right? I spend a lot of time going out to open studios. I always have and sometimes I'm just going for leisure, sometimes I'm going because I'm going to hang out with a friend and we're going to go and see some other studios. Sometimes it's purposely to visit somebody who's kind of been on the periphery of my radar, and I thought if I go to an open studio event, then I can see it in a more casual way without the pressure of being pitched to. So there's all the different kind
Well,
of
speak
ways,
about,
and I've heard a lot of galleries say, or dealers really, saying that they spend quite a lot of time going to artist-owned shows as well. Like, that actually lets them see how the artist would present their own work, when they're given or they're, whatever the artist is doing, like renting a space or a project space or something like that to show their work. what their vision is. So yeah, they're doing it all the time.
So, speaking about not being pitched to,
Mm.
it's so interesting, right? Like, how do you not pitch but show your work? So, I got to tell you, when I was in galleries, I think it was like 2008 when we first realized the power of the internet, because I put up, a Facebook page for the gallery where I worked, and we had an artist do an edition of like lithographs, and I posted that it was available and the price, which was like to the owners were like so annoyed that I did that, but then they stopped being annoyed like 5 minutes later when they sold one from Facebook. But anyway, what I realized is that the power of the internet is so that you can essentially pitch people without actively pitching them. So if they're looking, you can show them your work. And just recently, I was going through my Instagram community because a friend of mine who has a gallery here in New York asked me to curate an exhibition. And so I'll be curating an exhibition in New York on the feminine divine, and it's going to be a group show. It's going to be so fun. Um, and I was scrolling through my followers for artists. I was like, well, why don't I dip into my community? And isn't it amazing? Like you can it's so fun to curate now. So much easier with the internet. And that is just presenting yourself in a way where we understand what your message is online, like that consistent message of your work. And when we go to your Instagram page and seeing like a nice overview of what you're currently working on, that is one of the best ways that you can pitch yourself without pitching yourself.
So well said. It's so true. Like Instagram is considered almost like this business card these days. Like, what do you do? Where are you at? Where can I reach you? What does your work look like? All of that is answered, like literally on your IG profile. I've got a slightly different tweak of a question, but it's about the point of galleries in an artist's career because they are seen as sometimes like we said this savior. I've kind of used this like Prince Charming archetype that some artists think that they're going to come and rescue them, but we think of it like the gallery kind of, as you've mentioned, like amplifying the artist's visibility and their um position within that sort of what feels like a hierarchy sometimes, but their position within the art world. Can you share a bit more about your thoughts on that?
So, yes, the question then really is like, well, what's the point of working with a gallery, right? That's the real question, in the sense that, it's not your savior, so why even bother? Well, here's the thing. It's not your savior, as I'm sure all of you guys have heard Gita say, because the gallery needs it's going to be difficult for the gallery to find you and organize your work for you and your message for you. That is your job now. Now that's your job. But what happens when you work with a gallery in a way that it could be almost your savior is it can really amplify your message to more people. They have an audience. So, in a nutshell, like if we're going to strip it down, what is the point of working with a gallery? Well, they have a mailing list, hopefully, of many, many people who are interested in buying artwork. And when you find a gallery that is aligned for you, meaning that their collectors would be interested in your work, and the reason that you would know that is because you would look at the characteristics, either formal or informal, of the artwork that the gallery is showing. For example, the gallery might be only showing abstract art, but maybe the gallery is showing or the gallery is only showing women artists or whatever, artists from a certain diaspora. So that means that they're very niche. And if you get a gallery like that, they're going to amplify your message to a very selected group of people that are your target audience. There are also galleries where the characteristics of the artwork that their collectors like are not exactly niche like that. But for example, they're going to have artwork that is more it could be representational or non, but it'll be maximalist in color, in brushstroke, like very loose in brushstroke. In there might be a certain pedigree that they're looking for in their artist. So you'll see when you check the CVs of the artists, uh, they all might have MFAs from really important institutions. So then you know, oh, wait, I have an MFA from Goldsmiths and I make large work. Maybe I should start looking at this gallery. And so, and similarly, there are galleries out there that will be very, there are galleries that are focused specifically on self-taught artists and they go to big art fairs like Frieze and Basel, right? So they are every type of gallery is out there to amplify your message to an audience that makes sense for you, to your target audience that's actually willing to spend money, because anyone on a gallery's mailing list is someone who has already bought art.
Love it. Yeah, I think the range of galleries that actually exist is so expansive. Just like, types of art and all the things. Like, there are ones that are, little small stores. There are ones that just work with editions and printmakers, all the way through all the price ranges, through all the niches that you can possibly imagine. But yeah, I think that's a really important part of like researching which ones you present your work to and which ones you kind of want to, yeah, build those relationships with as well. Marina, when is your training?
Oh, it's July 10th, 11th, and 12th. And so if you guys are listening and you're interested in coming to hang out, it will be live at 1 p.m. each of those days. That's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So essentially like a lunchtime break. But if you can't make it to the live training right away after the training, you will be emailed a replay as long as you register. And also, I have prizes that I'm offering. So if you come to the training and you follow the guidelines, right? Like once you register, you'll get an email with the guidelines. You can, or you can, and you will be entered to win one of three prizes. So the grand prize is a ticket to my online signature group program called the Artist Academy, which helps artists navigate the art world and truly present their work in a way that it deserves to be presented online, on their website, on their social media, and also directly to gallerists. So at the end of this program, which is a wonderful 4-month group program that I've now taught that I'm teaching now for the 14th time, which is so wild. At the end of the program, you get to meet two people who are either a gallerist or a curator and show them your work, which is really, really fun. And from that experience, so really we got you into tip-top shape in that program. And from that experience, I have had artists get gallery shows. I've gotten them into group shows. It's been really, really fun. And so that's the grand prize. You get a ticket to the Artist Academy, which starts in August 2024. The second prize is a personalized website and Instagram audit from me. So that is just me looking at your current online presence and telling you how to tweak it and what works with it to get closer to your goal, right? And then the third prize are 3 of my favorite books that I actually recommend for everyone who does the Artist Academy to read. So, yeah, I mean,
Oh,
if you're
juicy
into it,
bonuses.
yeah, come, hang out. I'm like, spend time with me. I am not clingy at all.
Look, you're going to learn something even if you just enroll in the training, watch the replays, right? Even any which way, you're going to come out of this,
Yeah.
with a more enriched understanding of, what you need to be doing, and even if it's clarity around, is that the right next step for you? So that is a fantastic. Marina, we have to do another podcast about our woo-woo side and how this is something both of us, well, I certainly kind of keep it low key in the public domain, but I'm coming out about it a lot more now. And I know we're both sitting here with crystals in our hands. But this is something I talk about inside some of my programs and my membership and all the things. So I would love to have a spiritual woo-woo time and convo with you about it, and we'll save that for another day.
I would love that too. Gita, thank you so much for having me on. And this is the beginning of a friendship here because I would love to have you on my podcast too.
Oh, I'd be delighted. Thank you so much for listening, Marina. Thank you. And you'll be able to find all the links to Marina's programs and her trainings, her podcast in the show notes.
Thank you so much.